The Supreme Court is currently considering a religious exemption case, a case in which someone is trying to cite their religion as a reason to allow them to violate a non-discrimination law. In this particular case, it is a baker in Colorado who is suing who does not believe he should be forced to serve cakes to people who are gay, who are getting married, even though his business would serve those same cakes to a straight couple who are getting married. I'm not going to get into the legalese of this case, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the effects of creating this religious exemption into law, whether through a judicial precedent or through other legislative action. So obviously the biggest benefit of doing that is it allows people who have religious objections to something like gay marriage or whatever it is to no longer be obligated to participate in any way in that sort of ceremony or anything else like that, and allows people to be more comfortable in practicing their religion and to follow their beliefs, regardless of what their beliefs are. And it allows people to have these same protections when they're operating a business as well as in their personal lives. Now, the biggest problem with this is, of course, the actual discrimination. Obviously, a lot of people will point to, this is a very specific case here where they just don't want to serve something that's used at a wedding rather than not serving something to homosexuals at all. And there are very likely many other people where they could source a cake from, so it's not a major supply concern necessarily. But the problem with this is that it opens the door to a lot more discrimination. It can start with just discrimination targeted at homosexual events, and then broaden to discrimination generally against homosexuals and other people in the LGBTQ spectrum. And then it can even go beyond that. It's very easy to imagine someone saying they don't believe in Islam, and Islam is contrary to their religion, so they don't want to sell their products to Muslims, or at least they don't want their products to be used in any sort of Muslim ceremony, a Muslim wedding, or any other Muslim cultural event. And then from there it could even expand to race, because you can cite anything as violating your religion even if it's not something that makes sense or is part of any text of a religion, because religions are a very personal thing about your faith and your beliefs. So you could go as far as to say you don't believe in serving African Americans because of your faith. Maybe you're opposed to interracial marriages. You don't want something that could be used at an interracial wedding because that is contrary to your religious beliefs. So it goes much further than it initially seems in opening the door to legal discrimination that would harm numerous communities. And it's very possible it could become widespread enough that there's not just, oh, you go to a baker right next door and get your cake there instead, especially in smaller towns and rural areas where there's just not a lot of places you can source these things from. It could cut off entire communities from the resources they need to run their lives. So overall, I personally have a very big problem with this type of precedent. I don't think allowing a religious exemption to anti-discrimination laws is a smart or moral thing to do, and I think it will start out as not being very problematic, but it can definitely open the door to all these more egregious examples that I've listed. The case I've been referring to here is called Masterpiece Cake Shop versus Colorado Civil Rights Commission, and it's expected to be heard by the Supreme Court here in its 2017 term. So let me know what you think about this case and how you think the court should rule, and what you think about religious exemptions to anti-discrimination laws moving forward. And please like and subscribe to learn more.